Lisa had always been the type of person who helped others. Working as a marketing manager at a growing tech company, she earned enough to live comfortably in a nice apartment with her 7-year-old daughter, Amy. Every morning, she would drop Amy off at school, grab her usual coffee, and head to work with a smile. Life felt stable and predictable, but life has a way of changing everything in an instant. It started on a Tuesday morning when Lisa walked into her office and found her boss looking troubled. The company had been struggling with money problems for months, but nobody expected what came next. By lunchtime, every employee received the same message. The company was shutting down immediately. No warning, no severance pay, nothing. Just a simple goodbye and good luck. Lisa sat in her car in the parking lot, staring at the cardboard box filled with her desk items. 23 employees, all suddenly without jobs. She tried calling other companies, but everyone seemed to be cutting back, not hiring. The tech industry was going through a tough time, and experienced workers were competing for the few available positions. While Lisa was dealing with her job loss, her mother called with news that would change everything. The doctor had found something serious during her routine checkup. Cancer, the aggressive kind that needed immediate treatment. Lisa's mother lived alone and had no insurance coverage for the expensive treatments. As an only child, Lisa knew she had to help. She started using her savings to pay for her mother's medical bills, thinking she would find a new job quickly. But weeks turned into months. Every interview ended the same way. They would call someone else. Lisa's confidence began to crack. She had always been successful, always been the one people relied on. Now she was starting to doubt herself. Was she too old? Not skilled enough? The questions kept her awake at night. Meanwhile, Amy's father had been supposed to send child support every month, but his payments became irregular, then stopped completely. When Lisa tried to contact him, she learned he had moved to another state and changed his phone number. The court papers would take months to process, and Lisa needed help now, not later. The apartment rent was due, and Lisa's savings were almost gone. She'd always paid her bills on time, never missed a payment. But now she was looking at eviction papers taped to her door. The landlord wanted to raise the rent by $300 a month. For Lisa, who had no income, it might as well have been $3,000. She tried everything she could think of. She applied for government assistance, but the waiting lists were long and the requirements complicated. She reached out to old friends, but many had their own problems. Some offered small amounts of help, but it wasn't enough to solve the bigger issue. Lisa needed a job, and she needed it fast. The final blow came when Amy got sick. Just a simple fever at first, but it wouldn't go away. The doctor said Amy needed medicine and rest, but the prescription cost more than Lisa had left in her bank account. Standing in the pharmacy, Lisa felt completely helpless. She had to choose between medicine for her daughter and paying for their last week in the apartment. That night, Lisa sat on her daughter's bed watching Amy sleep. The little girl had no idea how bad things had gotten. She still talked about her friends at school, still asked for help with homework, still believed her mom could fix anything. Lisa felt like she was failing at the most important job she had ever had, being a mother. The eviction notice was final. Lisa packed their belongings into 2 suitcases and her car. She told Amy they were going on an adventure, staying in different places for a while. Amy seemed excited at first, thinking it was like camping. But as days passed, and they moved from one friend's couch to another, then to a motel, when the friends couldn't help anymore, Amy began to understand something was wrong. The motel was expensive, and Lisa's money ran out faster than she expected. They had to leave after 4 days. Lisa drove around the city, looking for somewhere safe to park for the night. She found a 24-hour diner, where she bought Amy a small meal and let her do homework in a booth while Lisa applied for jobs on her phone. Winter was coming, and Lisa could feel the cold getting worse each night. She would wrap Amy in blankets in the back seat of their car while she stayed awake watching for any danger. Amy would ask when they were going home, and Lisa would promise it would be soon. Knowing she had no idea when that might be true, Lisa had never imagined she could end up in this situation. She had always worked hard, always been responsible, but she was learning that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, life can push you down so far that getting back up feels impossible. She was about to discover just how cruel people could be to someone who had lost everything. Lisa never thought she would be the person holding a cardboard sign on a street corner. But there she was, standing outside a busy shopping center, with words written in black marker that simply said, "Please help. Single mom needs work." Her hands shook as she held the sign, not from the cold, but from embarrassment. The first person to walk by was a woman in expensive clothes, talking loudly on her phone. She looked at Lisa, rolled her eyes, and said to whoever was on the phone, "Oh great, another one of these people. They're everywhere now." Lisa felt her face turn red. She wanted to explain that she wasn't one of these people. She was educated. She had worked hard her whole life. She just needed a chance. But the woman was already gone, clicking her high heels across the parking lot. More people walked by. Some ignored her completely, looking right through her like she was invisible. Others stared, but not in a kind way. A teenage boy took a picture of her with his phone and laughed with his friends. Lisa heard him say, "Look at this lady begging. I'm going to post this online." Her stomach twisted. What if someone from her old job saw it? What if Amy's teacher saw it? An older man in a business suit stopped in front of her. For a moment, Lisa felt hopeful. Maybe he would help, or at least listen. Instead, he looked her up and down with disgust. "You know what's wrong with this country?" he said loudly enough for others to hear. "People like you who think the world owes them something. Get a job like the rest of us." Lisa tried to speak. "Sir, I'm looking for work. I have experience in marketing and save it." He cut her off. "I've heard every sob story in the book. You probably spend any money you get on drugs anyway." He walked away, shaking his head like she had personally ruined his day. Lisa stood there, stunned. She had never used drugs in her life. Never even been in trouble with the law? But this man had looked at her and decided he knew exactly who she was and what she deserved. The worst part was that other people had heard him. Some nodded in agreement. A woman with 2 small children hurried past, pulling her kids closer as if Lisa might somehow hurt them. Lisa wanted to call out, "I have a daughter too. I'm just trying to take care of her," but she knew it wouldn't matter. As the day went on, the comments got worse. People called her lazy, worthless, a burden on society. One man threw his empty coffee cup at her feet and said, "Clean that up. At least do something useful." Lisa bent down and picked up the cup because she didn't know what else to do. The man laughed and walked away. A group of teenagers started making jokes about her appearance. Her clothes were wrinkled from sleeping in the car, and she hadn't been able to shower in days. They imitated the way she stood, made fun of her sign, and took videos of themselves laughing at her. Lisa wanted to disappear, to find a hole in the ground and hide forever. But the cruelest moment came when Lisa saw a family she recognized from Amy's school. The mother had always been friendly during school pickup, always asked how Lisa was doing. Now she pretended not to see her. Quickly, walking her children in the opposite direction, Lisa realized that her old life was truly gone. Even people who had known her as a successful, caring mother now saw her as something to avoid. By evening, Lisa had collected only a few dollars in coins. Not enough for a motel room, barely enough for a simple meal. She sat in her car with Amy, who was asking why people had been so mean to Mommy. Lisa didn't know how to explain that the world could be cruel to people who were struggling. "Some people don't understand that everyone needs help sometimes," Lisa told her daughter. But inside she was starting to believe what they said about her. Maybe she was worthless. Maybe she had made bad choices. Maybe she deserved this. The next day, Lisa tried a different approach. She dressed in her best remaining clothes and went to businesses to ask for work in person. But as soon as managers saw her car packed with belongings, their expressions changed. They would say they weren't hiring, or they would take her application, and promise to call, but she knew they never would. One store manager was particularly harsh. "Look, lady, I don't know what your story is, but you can't park that car here. You're scaring away customers." Lisa tried to explain that she was just looking for work, but the manager had already called security. Standing in that parking lot, watching the security guard write down her license plate number, Lisa felt smaller than she ever had in her life. She had become the person that others crossed the street to avoid. The person that people made jokes about, The person that society had decided didn't matter. What hurt most was that she was starting to believe them. The cold November rain was the worst enemy Lisa had ever faced. It soaked through their thin blankets, made the car windows fog up, and turned every night into a battle for warmth. Amy's cough had started 3 weeks ago as just a little tickle in her throat. Now it was deep and rough, keeping both of them awake through the long, dark hours. Lisa would listen to her daughter's labored breathing and feel panic rise in her chest. She knew Amy needed medicine, needed to see a doctor, needed to be somewhere warm and dry. But the free clinic had a 2-week waiting list, and the emergency room would cost money she didn't have. They had been turned away from 3 different shelters in the past month. The first one was full. They put Lisa and Amy on a waiting list that seemed to never move. The second shelter only took women without children. The third one had space. But when Lisa arrived with Amy, they said her daughter was too sick to stay. "We can't risk other people getting infected," the worker had said, not unkindly but firmly. Lisa understood the rules, but understanding didn't make sleeping in the car any easier. She had found a 24-hour laundromat where they could stay warm. For a few hours each night, the owner, an elderly man who worked late shifts, pretended not to notice them curled up in the corner. But even he had limits. They couldn't stay there every night without buying something. On the coldest nights, Lisa would drive to the hospital parking lot. The emergency room was always busy, and security didn't bother people who looked like they were waiting for news about a family member. Lisa would carry Amy inside, and they would sit in the waiting room chairs until someone asked if they needed help. Then Lisa would say they were just waiting for a ride and they would have to leave. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening when Amy collapsed while they were walking from the car to a gas station restroom. One moment she was holding Lisa's hand, the next she was on the ground, her small body shaking. Lisa scooped her up, her heart racing faster than it ever had, and ran to the car. The drive to the hospital was the longest 5 minutes of Lisa's life. Amy was barely conscious, her breathing shallow and fast. Lisa kept talking to her, telling her everything would be okay, but inside she was terrified. What if she was too late? What if she had failed her daughter in the worst possible way? At the emergency room, Lisa burst through the doors carrying Amy. The nurses took one look and rushed them into a room. Amy was dehydrated, malnourished, and had developed pneumonia from weeks of sleeping in cold, damp conditions. The doctor, a tired-looking woman with kind eyes, worked quickly to get Amy stabilized. But then came the questions Lisa had been dreading. Where do you live? Do you have insurance? What's your current address? Lisa tried to explain their situation quietly, hoping Amy wouldn't fully understand. The doctor's expression changed from professional concern to something else, judgment. Maybe you're pity. Mrs. Johnson, the doctor said, using the fake name Lisa had given. I need to be honest with you. Your daughter's condition is serious, but it's also completely preventable. She needs proper nutrition, a warm place to sleep, and consistent medical care. If you can't provide these basic needs, the doctor didn't finish the sentence, but Lisa understood. They were talking about taking Amy away from her. The one thing that had kept Lisa going through everything, the need to protect and care for her daughter, was now being used against her. A social worker arrived within an hour. She was a young woman who spoke in the careful, measured tone that people use when they're trying to be kind while delivering terrible news. Ms. Johnson, we want to help you, but our primary concern has to be Amy's well-being. We have programs that can help, but they take time. In the meantime, we need to make sure Amy has a safe place to recover. Lisa felt the world spinning around her. Please, she whispered, don't take her away from me. She's all I have left. I'm trying so hard to find work to get us back on our feet. I just need a little more time. The social worker's expression softened slightly. I understand this is difficult, but look at it from Amy's perspective. She's 7 years old. She should be worried about homework and playground games, not where she's going to sleep tonight. That night, while Amy slept in the hospital bed, with warm blankets and steady heat, Lisa sat in the uncomfortable chair beside her. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours at a time in weeks. Her own health was failing. She had lost weight. Her hands shook from stress. And she couldn't remember the last time she had eaten a full meal. Looking at her daughter's peaceful face, Lisa felt a darkness she had never experienced before. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe she was a failure as a mother. Maybe Amy would be better off with someone else, someone who could provide the basic things a child needed. For the first time since this nightmare began, Lisa seriously considered giving up. Not just on finding work or getting an apartment, but on everything. She felt like she was drowning in a deep, dark ocean. And no matter how hard she tried to swim to the surface, she just kept sinking deeper. The worst part was the silence. No phone calls from friends checking on her. No former colleagues reaching out to help. No family members offering support. Lisa had become completely invisible to the world she used to be part of. She was alone in a way she had never imagined possible. As dawn broke through the hospital window, Lisa made a decision that scared her more than anything else she had ever done. She was going to sign the papers. She was going to let them take Amy to a safe place while she figured out how to put her life back together. It felt like tearing her own heart out, but she couldn't watch her daughter suffer anymore because of her failures. She had hit rock bottom, and she couldn't see any way back up. It was 3 a.m. when Dr. Martinez made his rounds through the children's ward. He had been working at the hospital for 2 years, and he thought he had seen everything. But something about the woman sitting beside bed 7 caught his attention. She hadn't moved in hours, just sat there watching her daughter breathe, her own eyes red from exhaustion and worry. Lisa didn't notice him at first. She was lost in her own thoughts, trying to figure out how to tell Amy that Mommy might not be able to take care of her anymore. The social worker had left the papers on the bedside table, forms that would place Amy in temporary care while Lisa tried to get back on her feet. The pen felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in her hand. "Excuse me," Dr. Martinez said quietly, not wanting to startle her. "I'm sorry to bother you. I just wanted to check on Amy and see how you're doing." Lisa looked up, surprised.
Oh.
Of the hospital staff had been professional but distant. They did their jobs, but she could see the judgment in their eyes. This doctor was different. He had pulled up a chair and was sitting at her level, not standing over her like she was a problem to be solved. "I'm fine," Lisa said automatically, the response she had been giving everyone for months. But her voice cracked on the words, and she looked away, embarrassed. Dr. Martinez had grown up in a neighborhood where families sometimes lost everything through no fault of their own. His own mother had worked 3 jobs to keep their family together after his father left. He recognized the look in Lisa's eyes, the exhaustion that came from fighting a battle that felt impossible to win. "You know," he said gently, "I've been watching you for the past few hours. You haven't eaten anything, you haven't slept, and you haven't left your daughter's side. That tells me everything I need to know about what kind of mother you are." Lisa felt tears starting to form. She had been holding them back for so long, trying to be strong, trying to keep everything together. But this stranger's kindness was breaking down walls she had built to protect herself. "I'm going to lose her," Lisa whispered, her voice barely audible. "They're going to take her away because I can't provide for her. Maybe they're right. Maybe she'd be better off with someone else." Dr. Martinez had heard this before. Parents who were so beaten down by circumstances that they started to believe they didn't deserve their own children. He had seen good parents destroyed by a system that was supposed to help them but often made things worse. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. "I've been working with children for years. I can tell within minutes whether a child is loved or not. Your daughter, Amy? She's one of the most loved children I've ever met. Do you know how I can tell?" Lisa shook her head, curious despite her despair. "She talks about you constantly. Even when she's scared, even when she's in pain, she worries about you. She asks if you're eating enough, if you're warm enough. That's not the behavior of a child who's been neglected. That's the behavior of a child who has been loved so completely that she puts her mother's needs before her own." For the first time in months, Lisa felt something other than shame when someone talked about her parenting. She looked at Amy's sleeping face and remembered all the times her daughter had tried to comfort her, had shared her small portions of food, had never complained about their situation, even when Lisa knew she was scared. "The social worker says I'm failing her," Lisa said. "Look at her, she's sick because of me, because I couldn't keep us somewhere safe and warm." Dr. Martinez leaned forward. "Let me ask you something. Before all this happened, what kind of life did you give Amy?" Lisa thought about their old apartment, about bedtime stories and homework help, about Amy's birthday parties and school plays. She remembered teaching Amy to ride a bike, taking her to the park, reading together on Sunday mornings. I gave her everything I could, Lisa said. I worked hard to make sure she had what she needed. It wasn't perfect, but I loved her with everything I had. That love didn't disappear when you lost your job, did it? It didn't disappear when you lost your apartment? You're still the same mother who raised a kind, caring, resilient little girl. The circumstances changed, but you didn't. Lisa felt something shift inside her chest. For months, she had been carrying the weight of feeling like a failure. But this doctor was seeing something different. He was seeing the mother she had always been. It's not just the desperate woman she had become. I don't know how to fix this, she admitted. I've tried everything. I've applied for every job, reached out to every program, asked for help from everyone I could think of. I'm running out of options. Dr. Martinez reached into his pocket and pulled out a small business card. I know someone who specializes in helping families like yours. Not taking children away, but keeping families together.
Oh.
She's helped people who were in situations just like yours. He handed her the card, and Lisa looked at it through her tears. It was for a family services organization she had never heard. Oh, but more than that, Dr. Martinez continued. I want you to know something, and I want you to really hear me when I say this. He waited until she looked directly at him. You are not alone anymore. You are not invisible. You matter, and your daughter matters, and you deserve help. Lisa started crying then, not the quiet tears she had been holding back, but deep body-shaking sobs. Months of fear and shame and loneliness came pouring out. Dr. Martinez didn't try to stop her or tell her everything would be okay. He just sat with her, a quiet presence in the middle of her storm. When she finally stopped crying, he handed her a tissue and said 4 words that would change everything. You are safe now. The words hit Lisa like a warm blanket after months in the cold. Safe. When was the last time she had felt safe? When was the last time someone had looked at her and seen a person worth helping instead of a problem to be solved? Help you, Dr. Martinez said. Not because it's my job, but because you're a good mother who deserves better than what the world has given you. We're going to figure this out together. For the first time in months, Lisa felt something she had almost forgotten existed. Hope. The phone call came 2 days after Dr. Martinez had given Lisa the business card. She had been sitting in the hospital cafeteria, sharing a small cup of soup with Amy, when her phone rang. The woman on the other end introduced herself as Rachel, from Family Forward Services, and her voice carried the same warmth that Dr. Martinez had shown. Dr. Martinez told me about your situation, Rachel said. I want you to know that we don't take children away from loving parents. We help families stay together. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? Lisa felt nervous as she walked into the small office building the next day. She had been disappointed so many times that she almost didn't dare to hope. But Rachel turned out to be a woman in her 50s who had raised 3 children of her own and understood the difference between being a bad parent and being a parent in a bad situation. Tell me about your daughter, Rachel said, and Lisa found herself talking about Amy's love for books, her kindness to other children, her resilience through everything they had been through. Rachel listened without judgment, taking notes and nodding. You've done an incredible job raising her, Rachel said when Lisa finished. Now let's talk about how we can help you get back on your feet. The first step was temporary housing. A shelter, but a small apartment in a building designed for families working to rebuild their lives. Lisa and Amy would have their own space, just 1 bedroom and a tiny kitchen, but it was theirs. The rent was based on Lisa's income, which meant it was free until she found work. Moving into that apartment felt like a miracle. Amy ran around the small space, excited to have a real bed again, a place to keep her few toys, a window to look out of. Lisa stood in the kitchen, turned on the faucet, and watched clean water flow out. Such a simple thing, but after months of wondering where they would find a bathroom or a drink of water, it felt like luxury. But the real work was just beginning. Rachel connected Lisa with a job training program that helped people update their skills and rebuild their confidence. Lisa learned new computer programs, practiced interview techniques, and slowly began to remember who she had been before everything fell apart. The other people in the program had stories similar to hers. There was Tom, a former construction worker who had been injured on the job and lost everything while fighting for disability benefits. There was Maria, a single mother whose ex-husband had left her with mountains of debt. There was David, college graduate who had been laid off and couldn't find work in his field. Lisa realized she wasn't alone in her struggles. These were good people who had worked hard and followed the rules, but life had knocked them down anyway. The program wasn't just about job skills, it was about rebuilding their sense of self-worth. The first few job interviews were difficult. Lisa's confidence was still fragile, and she stumbled over questions about the gap in her work history. But with each interview, she got a little stronger. Rachel helped her practice explaining her situation honestly but positively, focusing on her skills and determination rather than her circumstances. After 3 weeks of interviews, Lisa got a call that changed everything. A nonprofit organization that helped families in crisis wanted to offer her a position. The pay wasn't great, but it was steady work with benefits, and the mission spoke to her heart. "We need someone who understands what our clients are going through," the director explained during her final interview. "Someone who can connect with families in crisis because they've been there themselves." Lisa's first day at work felt surreal. She dressed in clothes from a donation program, but she felt professional again. She had a desk, a computer, a phone. She had a purpose beyond just surviving day to day. Amy's recovery was slower, but steady. The little girl had been through trauma that would take time to heal. She sometimes woke up in the middle of the night, worried that they would have to leave their apartment. She hoarded food in her backpack, afraid there wouldn't be enough later. But gradually, as the weeks passed and their life became more stable, Amy began to relax. The school counselor worked with Amy to help her process what she had been through. Amy drew pictures of their car, their nights in the cold, the people who had been mean to her mother. But she also drew pictures of Dr. Martinez, of their new apartment, and of her mother at her new job. 6 months after that night in the hospital, Lisa sat in her small living room watching Amy do homework at the kitchen table. They were still living paycheck to paycheck, still shopping at thrift stores and counting every dollar, but they had stability, dignity, and hope. Lisa thought about Dr. Martinez often. It started something that night that rippled outward, in ways he probably never knew. Because of his kindness, Lisa had found the help she needed. Because of that help, she was now in a position to help other families facing the same struggles at work. Lisa met with parents who reminded her of herself 6 months earlier, exhausted, ashamed, convinced they were failures. Them the way Dr. Martinez had sat with her, and she would tell them the words that had saved her life. "You are safe now." One evening, Amy looked up from her homework and asked, "Mom, why do you think some people are mean to families like us, but other people are nice?" Lisa thought about the question carefully. "I think some people are scared," she said. "They're scared that what happened to us could happen to them too. So they convince themselves that we must have done something wrong. But other people, like Dr. Martinez, they understand that anyone can need help sometimes." "Are we going to be okay?" Amy asked. Lisa looked around their small apartment, thought about her job helping other families, considered how far they had come from sleeping in their car. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be okay. And when we meet other people who need help, we're going to remember how it felt when someone was kind to us." That night, as Lisa tucked Amy into bed, she realized something important. She was no longer the same person who had stood on that street corner holding a cardboard sign. The experience had changed her, but not in the way she had feared. She was stronger now, more compassionate, more aware of how fragile life could be and how important it was to lift each other up. Dr. Martinez had whispered, "You are safe now," to one desperate mother on one dark night. But those words had created a ripple effect that would touch countless other families. Lisa made sure of that, carrying his kindness forward to everyone who needed to hear those same 4 words, "You are safe now,"